Now, having good sound design techniques inside of a plugin such as Serum is crucial for good dubstep bass production. However, if you do not know how to properly post-process those sounds, the power of those beautifully designed basses can be completely lost in the track. My name is Will from Ghost Hack, and this is a simple yet very effective technique I use to post-process my dubstep basses. Alright, I have three different styles of basses here. The first one is this growl. It is called Gnarl, and it is from the Riddim Revolution pack on Ghost Hack. This second sound is also a growl, and it is called Platinum, and it is from the same pack. And then the last sound is called Cicada Killer. It is from Next Gen Presets for Serum on Ghost Hack as well. Now, all three of those sounds are very, very high quality. However, they do require post-processing. So I've routed them into 20, 21, and 22. This is what they all sound like together with no processing. So to start off, let's just take a look at one right here. The first thing I'm going to throw on this growl is an EQ. I'm not doing much here. I just, am rolling off these this mid-high range, which I found to be very powerful, boosting up the very highs a little bit and the low to low mids a little bit as well. This is just very subtle things. The only big thing I'm doing is this high pass, which is cutting all the sub. Very important. You want to do that first step of the process. Next up, I'm going to throw on Serum FX. Now, if you own Serum, you also own Serum FX. You can download it on the X4 website. It's the same place you downloaded Serum, it's just the effects version. First thing I'm going to do is just do basic stuff with this multi-band compression. I just brought the threshold down to like 10.9, and I brought the release up a little bit. I didn't need a ton of release on this one, and this is what it does to the sound. It just really thickens up and richens up the harmonic spectrum there. After that, I'm going to flip on a hyperdimension. I don't want to do too much here because too much of either of these is drastically it's gonna mess up the sound. So I want to bring down the mix to 0, the size down to 0, and I just want to bring the mix up on the dimension up a little bit, so just a little bit for this kind of growl. That just gives it a little more space there, and I'm going to utilize that later. After that, flip on some distortion. I didn't want anything much here, just a little bit of soft clip distortion. I brought the mix down, the drive up a little bit. This just adds a little more power behind the sound. Alright, awesome. After that, I'm just going to throw this EQ on it, and this is a little more drastic EQ than the first one. What I'm doing here is, again, high passing it, because the multiband compression and distortion added some low frequencies in there that I didn't want to be there. I just want to make sure there's nothing interfering with the sub at all. And so I brought down some frequencies here at this third point. I brought up these low mid frequencies, again brought down the harsh regions and brought up the high regions a lot. And this EQ is also very, very important because it is the EQ before it goes into the Soundgoodizer. Now, a lot of people scoff. They don't like using Soundgoodizer because they say it's just really cheap. It's very, very simple. And it is very simple. And I like it because of that, because Soundgoodizer is connected to Maximus, which is a multi-band compressor. You see these A, B, C, and D presets. You can find those in Maximus. If you open up Maximus, and then on the presets, there's A, B, C, and D. Those are directly connected to Soundgoodizer right there. So if I click A, this is the preset that I actually have when I throw on Soundgoodizer A. It's a very complex preset. So Soundgoodizer is really just multi-band compression. I like to think of it as the OTT of FL Studio. Now, some people would be like, oh, at least you can change the settings in OTT. You can't do that in Soundgoodizer. If I wanted to change the settings, all I'd have to do is open up the Soundgoodizer preset in Maximus. However, there really is no need to change the settings here, and I'd rather have a much lower latency version, which Soundgoodizer provides. So do not be afraid to utilize a little bit of this plugin because it is powerful. Now, after I finish that, I'm actually going to route it into the basses group. I'm actually routing all three of these basses into the basses group. And what I do in my basses group is I have an EQ, which is just final high pass. You can never have too many of these. Just make sure there is no low frequency action going on. Then I have a slight bit of reverb, just slight, it's very, very little. And I gave it some stereo. This will just give it a little more space in the mix. It'll help it sit just a little better if you add just a tinge of reverb. And then I have a free balance here, which I'm actually using for the sidechain. However, the sidechain is not engaged, so it is not relevant at this time. All right, so there we have it for our first sound. Next up, let's look at the second growl. Look at this is the exact same lineup as we had before. This really simple effect chain can do a lot of things for pretty much any kind of bass. So I'm going to throw on the EQ again, high pass it, and I just took down a little bit in this area. There really was nothing else I wanted to EQ because these presets are pretty high quality just in Serum. Again, let's throw on a Serum FX. Once again, got some multi-band compression doing pretty much exactly the same thing, except I brought the gain up a little bit on this one. Then I will throw on the hyperdimension, and this is just doing the exact same thing as it was before. No mix, no size. Bring the mix up right here to about 25, so just a little bit there. Then throw on the disto. These are like the exact same settings as it was before. These are pretty universally good, unless you have a bass that is not very good without post-processing. These basses are good without post-processing, but they get so much better with them. Simple stuff. Next up, an EQ again. I brought down the high regions where I thought it was very piercing and very high frequency, and I brought up this mid region pretty much in its whole. I really liked this mid region. It sounded very thick. And again, I just controlled the lower frequencies right here. Run it through another Soundgoodizer, pretty much a little bit harder than the last one. And it sounds very thick. And once again, it is running through the basses and with the extra EQ and the reverb. Now for the final sound, I am going to put on the EQ again. This is the exact same effect chain, except it's no longer a growl, it's a screech bass. So I have the high pass. There was pretty much no EQing that needed to be done here. Then I put on the Serum FX, multi-band compression, then hyperdimension, and distortion. You should kind of know the drill now. EQ, control the low frequencies over the Soundgoodizer, take away some of the really harsh high frequencies there, and into the Soundgoodizer. Also on bass 1 and bass 3, which sound like this, I boosted the stereo width. This knob right here, if you bring it really far, let's say if you bring it really far to the left, it becomes high stereo, and bring it far to the right, it becomes completely mono. So you can kind of control it there. This sound number 2 was very stereo, so I wanted to match sound 1 and sound 3 to that stereo width. So I just brought up the stereo on each of those. But now even with all the post-processing, we're still missing something. Exactly, it needs a sub, so let's add the external sub that we made sure to cut in all the other patches, and it sounds like this. That sounds infinitely better than what we had before, which sounded like this. Once again, if you do not have as sculpted and rich and elegant of a sound as we used here, then you probably will have to use other forms of post-processing. The only reason I had to use this small effect chain was just to fatten it up, because Serum has a very nice effect chain, which I make sure to utilize almost all of its components in many of my presets. If Serum was a normal plugin that did not have any of these effects, it only had this section, then I would have had to do a lot more in post. But Serum is one of the best plugins for sound design in my opinion, because it has all of these built in. So there you have it, very simple and easy way to fatten up and richen up your sound with post-processing. If you have any tips and tricks for bass post-processing that you want to let other producers know, tell us in the comments, because we would love to hear from you as well. Do not forget to hit that subscribe button for more production tutorials, and I will see you all in the next video. Happy producing.